Good morning. If your business has had to go dark and you have felt like, I don't know how I'm going to come out of this on the other side, I've been forced out of business, maybe you feel angry or worried or anxious, resentful. I want you to stay here today and listen to what my friend and colleague Jacki Hannon has to share with you. Jacki is a Jackie of all trades, I like to say. She really she's building on all of the various things she's done in her life, and to bring us to this moment, like she's the perfect person to talk to in this moment, because she's really taken from all of the things she's done and kind of melded them together. She's a relationship building queen. She's a creative genius. And when she and I get talking, we just have so much juice flowing in our brains. And that's why I've invited her here today to talk about how, when your business has been forced to go dark, what are some actual action steps so that you don't feel paralyzed, that you can take to keep moving forward. So Jacki, thank you so much. I appreciate you, because one of the things I know about Jacki is she's always got a bajillion things going on. So she's taken time today, and I appreciate that. So Jacki, I'm going to turn this over to you, and I'm going to transcribe everything you say so that we have a record of it. And if anybody has questions, please put your questions in the comments so that we can see them. So how do we not go dark during the time of darkness?
Well, I think that the catalyst for this podcast was you and I not going dark. So we actually decided to do coffee. I saw this amazing email from you that we love to get, that are inspirational. And I commented back to you. All I said, I think, was something like, Jen, this was a great message. Thank you so much for sending it. It was pertinent. And there's step one of not going dark. Like, first of all, look at your email, look at your Facebook, look at your LinkedIn, look at your Instagram, and then continue to have conversations that you might save for the next time you see someone. So you're like, oh, I want to tell Jen that was great. Tell her now. Tell her now. Have the conversation. And that might spark you and I saying, oh, how are you doing? Oh, I'm good. I'm this, I'm that. And we decided to do a coffee chat, which ended up turning into, I think, both of us walking, or me cooking and you walking, and in getting together. We couldn't do the video. Step two, you don't have to use a video platform. We all love it. It's great. But I do think that some of us right now are getting overwhelmed with them. I thought it was nice today. This is the second time that I've really wanted to look the part this week. I hosted a virtual beer dinner earlier in the week, and I did my hair and makeup. I put on jeans with a zipper for the first time, right? Like, whew, stretchy ones, but I'm just going to decide that means that they were okay. And then, today actually, it's like, you know what, I might do my hair today for my, for my beer world. I can put on a hat, and we, it's our favorite hat or our favorite t-shirt or whatever, when we're doing our virtual happy hours. We do what's called a virtual shifty every week with our key accounts team. So at Bell's Brewery, you can go to the cafe and get a shifty or a beer at the end, which is reminiscent to me of a lot of what restaurants do. So some restaurants have very strict policies. You can't drink within the restaurant, but many restaurants, especially the independent ones, tend to offer a shift drink or an after work drink or a shifty to their employees afterwards. We have a weekly shifty at 4:30 now every Friday. And our leadership is on, and different departments come on. And now the brewery wide is doing shifties that you can jump in and out of rooms like you would jump in and out of rooms at the cafe and talk to different people. But think about this from the perspective of a restaurant. So maybe you are dark. Maybe you are not open right now, and it's scary. And before we even talk about your business's brand and your personal brand, how are you interacting with your employees? How are you staying in touch with them? How are you making sure that, they're coming out on the other side? And I've seen some amazing examples, but why not have a shifty? Every week, have a shifty. Maybe you take it as a point to do some learning. Maybe you take it as a point just to make sure everybody's okay, or to meet their dog, or to meet their babies, or to see all those parts about people that they're not able to show you when they come in and they're so focused on working, right? It's huge.
I just want to insert here. I love this perspective because I don't have employees. I have contractors who work for me, and we're always in contact. But this idea of not just connecting with your audience or your clients, but your employees, because if you're the owner and you're scared, imagine how these people feel they're the employees.
Absolutely.
Imagine how terrified they are.
Yeah.
Yes. So I love this idea of that's a strategy to connect with employees.
I love it. I was, before this all happened, in my career, my daily career, I get to interact with a ton of people from around the country as an on-premise chain key account person. It's a very long title of words that a lot of people might not understand. So that means a chain restaurant or bar is who I interact with daily to try to build relationships and help them sell Bell's Brewery beer. It's what I do. But that's based on, in sales, relationships, and it's based on finding out what is their pain point, what is hard for them, what can I help them solve, how can I take my experience and make it better for them. So not just walking in and being like, I think you should sell to Hardin because it's the number one beer in the country. Go. That's great, and it's true, but I also happen to be able to mine data for them and find information about what type of beer sells in their market and how it sells in their market. And it could be brand specific or type specific, and kind of put that information together for them in a concise way that they're too busy running a restaurant to put together. Or it might be that I say, okay, I was the director of training for a restaurant chain. I know how to get through to your staff. I have the language. I came up in the restaurant business from a dishwasher at my parents at 12. It's illegal. Child labor laws are different with your kids. Lord knows I did that in event planning later with my own. So we take that experience and I say, okay, I'm also a tips trainer, an alcohol safety trainer. How can I put together tools that you can use digitally? How can I, do classes for you? Well, now what can I do for them? Well, now I can stay in touch with them, for starters. So I do a weekly email to all of my chain contacts. And I'm not saying to them in every email, I just want to make sure that you still remember my name when this all comes back to light. No, I'm saying, how are you? Here are some tips and strategies for your social media. Here are some free classes for food safety. Here are some strategies for making sure your draft lines are clean.
Yeah. When you and I were on the phone, I remember I was walking, because I remember exactly where I was walking around the pond when you and I talked about exactly this, that being of service to people is the key here. And it doesn't necessarily mean overloading them or fire hosing them with a whole bunch of information at once. I've gotten a lot of emails from people who want to tell me everything at once right now. And it's just too much. So like bite-sizing it for them. And then you and I just kept sparking ideas of things that they might need to know. And if you chunk it down for them, you have lots of opportunities to email them weekly with a little bite-sized nugget, right?
Yes.
And so being of service without fire hosing people is what you're talking about.
Well, and being of service, not just announcing to them things. So I think all of us have gotten emails from somewhere we haven't shopped at or used their service in years, and they're telling me exactly how they're dealing with COVID. Well, I haven't been in your store in 8 years. So I'm very happy that National Grid is being safe, but probably that wasn't the 15th email I needed for both properties in a day. So I get one email for, my home property and then one email for my short-term rental about how, National Grid is handling it. Great. But maybe having a conversation with me that there's more people in my home and how I can, tips and tricks on keeping my power use down, right? Because there's more people in my home. So what can I do to still decrease that and not have that bill go up? God forbid I'm laid off or I just don't have it budgeted that way. So you need to find ways that you are of service to folks. So I can say, hey, I used to run a social media business. Maybe I have a few tips or tricks on how you can work within social media. I am focused on relationship building. I'm always talking about, we all know Connect 4 because it's my favorite game, but connecting people and using those connections for them to be better. I don't just want to meet you at a speed networking thing. I want to meet you and find out enough about you that I can connect you to my friend Jen and why it makes sense for you two to be connected, or why it makes sense for this restaurant to be connected to this beer purveyor or this food safety course or whatnot. But I couldn't do that if I wasn't getting information from my industry. And if I'm not online and looking, I'm not going to have it. So I always think about, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room, right? I have great information to share, and I like to take it and mold it into a storytelling way because people listen better and it's more fun for me to tell this story. But it's not all my own information. It's because I'm connected to so many amazing, smart, incredible people from many different vast array of industries. So I can take that and just turn it to make it make sense in the industry that I'm working with and then put it out to people. So sharing information is huge. It doesn't all have to be yours.
And that's like, this is exactly what I'm doing in this interview series, right? Like, so I wrote down in the comments, how can you be a conduit? And your point is, it doesn't have to be all coming from you. If you've got the bandwidth to grab information and share it with your employees, your audience, your clients, then you are being valuable at this time. And that's so important. So to go back to your point about relationship building using social media, do you have any tips on that you would be willing to share?
Absolutely. So first of all, update your profiles. And I always talk about this like the shoe cobbler. So this morning on my LinkedIn, I updated it to include Lilly Marsh. So Lilly Marsh is my passion project. I absolutely love being a short-term rental host. I hate the term short-term rental host. I love being a host. And I work really hard on making sure that Lilly Marsh's pages are up to date and they're in touch with people at this time, putting forth a very specific message. What I wasn't good about was making sure that my LinkedIn reflected that I'm a short-term rental host. So sometimes we have blind spots and we forget, right? So we forget to connect everything to one another and to share that content. So this morning I updated my short-term rental status, knowing we were going to have a conversation today. And then I also shared an article that I had found, late last night about Airbnb's reaction and talking about communication. So there was a big blow up with Airbnb and their hosts that didn't affect me as much in how they were handling refunds for people who feel like they're, solopreneurs, part of a network that's a platform for marketing more than anything in booking. And a policy came out and everything had to be refunded 100%. They handled it very differently than VRBO handled it, who was still putting kind of control in the host's hands. Do I think it's right to give people back their money? Yes, I do. As a host and as somebody that rents, and I've been on both sides of this coin right now. But I think it was the messaging and the communication. So at the key of every relationship, whether it is online or in person, is how you communicate. It is scary to communicate. I don't love to communicate to the person that I'm supposed to rent a $1,500 house from that I can't rent it because my son's graduation isn't going forward. And I don't know how they're going to react. But if I don't start that communication in an empathetic and polite manner, then I'm not going to have any results. So the Airbnb kind of fiasco happened because it wasn't communicated properly to the hosts. Now Airbnb is doing amazing work with the host to help get the money and do these things. But what if their voice had been different when they did the original communication? So what's your voice on your channels? What's your voice on LinkedIn? What's your voice on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, TikTok? They're all interrelated. So I would say Google yourself and see which platforms come up first. Google yourself with your cookies cleared or from your spouse's phone or computer or something else, or not a friend's right now, but make sure it's cleared. Google yourself and see what comes up on the internet about you and which platform comes up first. Is it your Facebook, your LinkedIn, which articles that are connected to you come up. And although I want you to keep one voice, if you look across my Instagram, my Facebook, and my LinkedIn right now, because those are my platforms, you will see someone who is passionate about beer, pairing beer with food, cooking, walking. I'm all about the walking right now. And the hospitality industry as a whole. So you can see that voice, but I call it different chapters in the same book, right? So on my Instagram, you see a little bit more playful posts and you'll see pictures that are like hand sanitizer or me studying for the Cicerone, but goofing off with my kids. On my Facebook, you'll see a very personal side to me. I'm much more personal on my personal Facebook than I am anywhere else. So you'll see me kind of putting things together and sharing more from my community, my personal community, and my personal friends and the restaurants I've eaten at, and tagging them and putting them in there, or picked up takeout from, I should be specific. And then on my LinkedIn, you'll see a much more professional or educational end to what I'm doing. Right? So same book, different chapters.
So when you're talking to people who are in the industry of like in-person experiences, short-term rentals, bars, restaurants, how are people showing up? Because I know you talk to your people, and I know people are real with you because you're real with them.
Yes.
How are people showing up? Is there fear? Is there anxiety? Is there calmness? What are you seeing in this industry right now?
So we're all still in fear mode, I think, in the hospitality industry, and the overall hospitality industry. So whether that is short-term rentals, or whether that is event centers, or whether that is, on-premise restaurants and bars. And I've been fortunate enough to be part of the restaurant and bar industry for pretty much my entire life, with everyone from the mom and pop and, diner to multi-unit international chains, right? So there's always something to be learned from one to the other, but they're scared. And, one of the things that I see is I'm watching my friends' hearts break who have opened businesses in the last few years, and everything that they have done is, grinding to a halt. They've had to lay off employees. These employees are their families and friends. One of the frustrating things that I've noticed is I am all about local. I love local. But for some reason, there seems to be this, local to the exclusion of chain. And this is where it gets really, really big with me talking about going dark with my restaurant chains that I work with. So I have a friend who's the general manager of a chain restaurant, many of them. But one I've known since, he was my salad guy 20 years ago, 20 plus years ago at Colorado Steakhouse. And he's seeing all of his friends and family post about going to all the restaurants that are local and kind of talking negatively about chain. Well, I think that there's room in this space for everybody, and we don't need to put down someone else. Just like I talk about being successful, you don't need to put down your competition in order to be successful. That is not the way to go. So there's kind of this negative backlash against chains. Well, this guy has been running this restaurant for more than 10 years. He has 100 employees. So 100 of our neighbors and family and friends are employed there. He's part of the chamber. He's part of, give back to nonprofits and everybody else in the community. And he does consider them his family and friends, just like my local restaurant owner down the street, who I adore, considers his or her family and friends to be the people that are working with them. So I just think let's support everyone we can during this. And it's going to take businesses of all sizes and breweries of all sizes in order to get back to where we want to be. And short-term rentals that have one property, and short-term rentals that have thousands of properties, who my heart is breaking for them, just like my heart is breaking for the international chain. And I miss hosting at Lilly, and I want to make sure it's good. And I still have to seal the house, and I still have to fix a leak, and I still have to do those things as a one-person owner. And so do those people that have 1,000 units still have to make sure that they're taken care of.
God, I love that point. And I don't think I would have ever thought of it, that whether you're local or whether you're bigger or whether you're the biggest, everybody is affected right now. And one of the things I'm noticing on TV ads is that big chains are also being affected. Toyota is being affected, right? Like chains like that. And so the way that I put that in the comment is, remember that you don't need to put down your competition, and you don't need to, basically it's that rule, like, don't be a dick kind of thing, right? Like, don't be a dick.
Talk about this.
So you can still put your messaging out there. So actually tonight we're getting takeout from Bonefish for my birthday, and that's a chain restaurant, right?
Yes.
And we could have chosen anywhere, but we chose that for a specific reason. And there's nothing, like, there's not a good or a bad in that, because everybody is hurting right now, right? So I love that point.
And everybody has staff, and everybody has people started. And not for nothing, there's not a single chain that I'm aware of out there that didn't start with somebody's dream.
Yeah.
And a restaurant or a bar that thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to make the best chicken wing, steak, fish, whatever. And I love the local fish sandwich from one restaurant in Liverpool. And I love the other local fish sandwich from this amazing bar that still serves it on newspaper in Watertown. And I love the fish sandwich from the pub downtown. Like, I can love fish sandwiches.
They can all exist at the same
Yes.
at the same time. Yeah.
Yes. So it's not to the exclusion one of the other. And
right. There's no one right way, as I think is a big take home message for this.
And I think I've seen some really great examples locally. Do you mind if I share some of the examples locally?
No, please do.
So I have talked to restaurants about, and the chains and the restaurants alike, about saying, listen, I want you to have your cooks, do a funny video or a TikTok or whatever of your cooks in the refrigerator, first in, first out. Is everything labeled like we do in the restaurants? Where's the chicken? Is it on the bottom shelf? How about we teach people at home where more foodborne illnesses happen than in restaurants, not to put the chicken above the lettuce? Like, what a good idea to keep things dated, not to keep leftovers forever. Let's teach them some skills at home. Let's talk about how long your red wine is good for. Let's taste a bottle of wine together. Let's learn how to mix a cocktail with your bartenders. Let's teach, proper serving techniques so that when you're putting the glasses on the table with your family, you're not holding them like this. And that's a food safety issue. You're moving them down like the servers know how to do in restaurants. Let's meet your server's dog, Penny, and see, them in a brewery hat or a restaurant hat or some of those things. From our perspective at Bell's, we are sending out these emails to folks, but we're also sending, some of our contacts have gotten a dog toy. So it's an Oberon beer can dog toy, and we're getting all these amazing videos back of their dogs playing with the toys. So we've solidified a relationship. We found a reason to reach out to people. That dog toy, well, maybe with my previous dog, it would have been gone in a heartbeat, but that dog toy is going to last. That video is going to last. We can get permission to share it on social media. We share it within our employees to lift our employee spirits because they see somebody interacting with our brand. And the next time that somebody puts a beer order into Drizzly or Amazon in the States where it's legal, maybe it's an Oberon. Or 6 months from now when they walk into the store and they just want a beer, they walk by that Oberon display and think, oh, it won't be 6 months from now because it's seasonal,
What you're talking about is connecting the dots. And there's not a direct, and people do not understand this about marketing. It's not a linear relationship and It's not a fast relationship, especially on social media. So yes, maybe you go into your favorite restaurant. It's a local restaurant. You go maybe every other week or every week, and you know the servers and you know the owners and you know the bartenders. Yes, that's a relationship that happens quickly. But online, that shit happens so much slower.
Oh my gosh.
So you're saying invest, 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 invest. And invest some more, because that's when you're going to get, like, someday it will come back to you.
Someday it comes back to you, and it's so hard. The ROI. We all want ROI. What's the ROI? What's the ROI? What's the ROI?
You can't have numbers like that on social media. It doesn't work that way.
And that was one of the hardest parts about running a social media business,
yes.
Right? When I ran the social media business, being able to explain to people, here is what I'm showing you, and you can do it through some ad tracking, and you can have Google trackers and social media trackers, but you're still not seeing necessarily what happens over here, right?
I know. It's a long game.
It is a long game. So, I've had friends that, oh, am I still there? Jen, can you hear me?
What happened? Jackie, can you hear me okay?
I can. I'm hoping you can get back to me.
Oh, I'm back. Jackie, are you there?
I'm
there
here.
You are. Okay.
Okay.
Hey, so quick question about, are you there?
I'm here.
Hear me?
Yes.
Oh boy.
Ben.
Jackie, are you there?
Are you back? I am.
Oh my God. Thank God for anybody who's watching. If you held in, thank you. So I want to ask one more question of you.
Yes. When you froze on me again.
Okay.
Oh, there you are.
The expert, can you hear me?
Sort
Based
of.
on your research, hear me? Oh, we can still hear you both. Oh, good. Did you guys hear me yelling at my son? Are you off the internet? So here's my question, Jack. Based on your experience and your expertise, what are you seeing? What should people be doing how to come back after this?
Oh, this is huge. So some of those examples I was talking about, my friends at Oh My Darling are putting up pictures of their staff wearing Oh My Darling hats or shirts in their home environment. My friend Nancy from Garland City up in Watertown, we had a big chat last weekend. She did a chicken barbecue and had her staff eating that's laid off, but then at home they shared pictures of eating their chicken barbecue or their pets or their family in their home environment. Angry Garlic here in Baldwinsville, they're still posting that they got into the Guinness Book of World Records. They're talking futuristically. They're talking positively about what's going to happen. Now, some of these are open and some of these are closed, and they're sharing their personal gratitude. What I want to get to the next point of is your personal brand is important in this too. And this is where I really talk to my chain partners. You may not have control of your social media. Maybe you're running a chain and it's run from corporate. You have a personal brand. And I know these people well. They are leaders in their communities. They are part of the chambers and the Kiwanis and the Lions Club and all of those things. I want them to be active in reaching out. I want them to have conversations with people in those community organizations. I decided after having a conversation with a coworker that I would host a virtual beer dinner. So a lot like in my life, when I'm traveling for work, I travel for work and I work very hard, and I always put joy into my travel, whether it's a walk around to see the architecture or going to see a show or meeting up with a friend in that part of the country. I always, incorporate both. So I decided to host a virtual beer dinner. I incorporated friends and family, and then I incorporated coworkers from Bell's, and I incorporated retail partners from Bell's and previous partners from my career. So we all come together, people from North Carolina, Virginia, Boston, New York, all over the country with all of these backgrounds. A brewery owner, a very successful brewery owner, a global beverage buyer for a hotel chain, a beer podcast host, restaurant owners, chain restaurant workers, upper management, salespeople from breweries and from the supplier side or distributor side, wine people, and friends who are just beer aficionados or supporters. We made some of the most incredible connections on that beer dinner. So I used my social media and my degree for marketing and put together Canva. I used all of my beer experience in my regular beer dinner hosting to put together the menu. And I used my mom and, skills, my home ec skills to put together a menu that people could still find in their stores that's not too expensive. They could make easily and socialize rather than be cooking the whole time. And then I used my hosting skills and sales skills to keep everyone connected. Everyone's going to do another one in 2 weeks. I got invited to a beer podcast, so I get to speak on a national beer podcast based on that. I got to share those resources within Bell's, and they went out in a marketing email to our whole sales staff, and an area sales manager from Boston and I have a conference call next week to talk about how she can host one in her area. I got to connect folks from North Carolina. Somebody's moving to North Carolina. 2 people live down there. They talked. The brewery owner is looking for landscaping, and my friend happened to have a degree in landscaping. And at the same time, we all just got to have a blast. Now, was I selling Bell's that day? Directly, no.
No, not directly.
We had Bell's on the menu,
but
right?
You were representing them, right? Like you were creating relationships for the future.
Right. And I was representing Bell's, but I was also representing Jacki Hannon.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And on that call, one of the friends that was on the call that's also an associate said, when this is all over, can we do this at Lilly Marsh Cabin? Mm-hmm. She's never been to Lilly. Right. She's never, right? But then somebody was like, oh, Lilly Marsh, what's Lilly Marsh? Oh, it's my cabin. I do beer things there. It's decorated in beer. Oh, I homebrew there. And talking about it. And that, for me, platform-wise, I'm talking about my expertise in beer, my lack of expertise in beer. I'm a terrible home brewer, but I keep trying to make it better. I can pair food really well, but I want to keep it simple. So with that, I made connections on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and on Instagram. And if you look across my platforms, you'll see me talking about the beer dinner, but it's a little bit like tweaked messaging, same images maybe, or even different images, sharing parts of it. And my kids got involved. They were making sure that photos were getting taken, and they're understanding that, this is, as much as this is fun for me, this is my brand. So it has to be done well. And my personal brand has stayed with me for 20 plus years. There were people on that call I worked with at Colorado Steakhouse in my early 20s. Right. There were people on that call that I've just met and started relationships with selling bells. There were people on that call that have been to my cabin, that have been to my kids' events, that haven't. My boss was on the call. So putting all of that together and the messaging forward, that's what I want to see people do. Host a virtual beer dinner, host a toast.
Right. And I know that people might be listening to this and saying, well, she's got so much history and she's got so much expertise and she's got so much experience in marketing that of course, Jacki could do this, right? No, it's not like that. Just start, because you're saying, if you don't stay top of mind now, if you don't stay in gratitude and positive now, that people are going to forget about you on the other side of this. So figure it out. This is the time to get creative, and you don't have to do it perfectly. I want to point out that I have pajama pants on right now. I don't have any makeup on, and I haven't washed my hair in several days, but I'm still here on a video with you, and it's not perfect because who cares, right? Right. And so just start something. Just ask your brain, what can I do to help my clients and be of service and stay top of mind? And you can't get creative when you're in a fear-based brain. No. And the only reason that you are able to be so creative and that I'm able to be so creative right now is because we are not in our fear-based brain. We're thinking about, how can I be of service? How can I be agile? How can I help? And so thank you for all of these brilliant gems that you dropped today. I've transcribed everything so that they're here for people to read through. But I do want to know, how can people get into your orbit with your personal brand? So, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about LinkedIn first, because I think professionally LinkedIn is a gold mine that not enough of us use. So please find me on LinkedIn. I want to I especially think that now. Who are you on LinkedIn? I'm going to put it in here. LinkedIn, Jacki Hannon. Facebook, Jacki Hannon. And on Twitter, I'm Jacki Hannon. Oh, I guess you're just a Jacki Hannon. Okay. The only thing that people get messed up with is that there's no E on the end of Jacki. That's right. So there's this lovely Jacki Hannon in England that gets super frustrated when everybody connects with her and emails her and all those things. So it's kind of fun. It's not fun. It's not funny, but not for her. But I'm sure she's lovely about it, because she's from England, right? She's probably very gracious about it. Lovely. She's like, please. She's not an American. Jesus Christ. So find me on those, and I would love for you to follow on if you do Airbnb and then search Lilly Marsh. But the best way to find me for Lilly Marsh is on Facebook. Okay. It's actually Lilly Marsh Cabin, and it's 37 Lilly Marsh on Instagram. And we have a blast. I love sharing on that page just different ways to relax and enjoy nature, and fun things about food and beer pairings and things like that too are on there, because again, everything's connected. But I just want to say, you and I talked earlier about people are more patient right now. You don't have to be an expert to start something. Yes. People are spending more time online. So a lot of our messaging that we talk about, you have this long. Well, right now we have a little bit longer. I just read a study that rather than being on our phones, we're being on the computer. Yeah. So you've got more space to work with people on. Just try something, and just try something. Something's better than nothing. And if you are not telling people how you're handling COVID, how you're handling your employees, how you're handling your business, and you're making it safe, and you're not being positive, they will remember that when they get to go back somewhere, when they get to use a service, use a business. So don't fire hose them with generic information. That's right. Show them, prove to them you're connected with your employees, you're connected with them, and be positive. Please. And if you're struggling to be positive, I just want to say, I've been doing this series every day since we started this whole shelter in place. There are so many great resources that I have on my video page to help people. Yes, we're talking business and strategy, but I have a whole bunch of interviews on mindset, breathing, meditation, ways to stay calm and centered and grounded. So if you're somebody who's watching this and you're like, Jacki, I want to know how to do this, you just go to my Facebook page and look under the videos, because there's tons of resources already there for you. So absolutely. Hey, Jacki, feel free to reach out, right? I'm right here. Yes. And Jacki is a great resource also. And you can tell, she's not shy and she's going to talk to you and she's friendly, and she and I could actually sit here and talk for a full hour, but we won't. So Jacki, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time and your expertise and all the gems that you shared.
Thank you so much for giving me space and time to share, and for spending a part of your birthday with me.
Oh, happy birthday to me. Thank you.
Thanks,
everybody. Bye.
Bye-bye.